Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
Welcome back to round two of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championship here at Red Lodge, where we're about to get underway with the third and final round of races. The last opportunity to score championship points for these riders. For races, the rookies class then, the first of the categories to get underway with round number 3. Current championship leader Jamie Woodcock starts from P4. 100 championship points to his name, but was relegated well down the order last time out, and Harrison Crosby was able to make up 15 championship points to now sit just 11 in arrears. He's the pole sitter here. Alongside him, Sullivan Mounsey. The second row of the grid is with Luca Hopkins, runner-up last time out, and Jamie Woodcock, the current championship leader. The third row of the grid with Saffron Watley, 20 points scored over 2 races so far this weekend, and Ethan Sparks, who sits third in the championship on 58 points. The fourth row of the grid is Orlando Phillips, who had a non-finish, non-scoring outing last time out, but still sits third in the series, alongside Alfie Davidson, and completing the top 10, Lucas Brown and James Rose, who scored a creditable double-figure tally last time out. So in terms of the championship race, Orlando Phillips dropping back against Jamie Woodcock, conceding 14 points this weekend so far, whereas Harrison Crosby, with a maximum 50 points out of 50 from 2 races from pole position, is now within 11 points of Jamie Woodcock. The battle in terms of the championship is that one between the rider starting off P1 on the grid and the rider starting off P4. Current championship leader is Jamie Woodcock on the number 17 machine. Just completing their warm-up lap and back onto the grid in the positions that they led away on the warm-up lap, with Harrison Crosby, P1, currently second in those series points. 11 points to make up. He could leave Red Lodge as the championship leader in the AC40 rookies category. Alongside him, Sullivan Mounsey had a non-finishing ride first time out, a creditable 13 points last time out. Can he secure his first podium finish of the 2017 season, having missed the opening round in South Wales? Stood on the grid, Luca Hopkins really had the pace last time out, with a second position finish after a non-scoring first race yesterday. Riders looking to the lights then, and scrambling away down to the first turn. Good start off P3 from Luca Hopkins, who jumped straight up to second ahead of Sullivan Mounsey, who's relegated to third. A bit of a gap then for the fight for fourth position, with Jamie Woodcock involved in that one, but relegated down by the looks of it into fifth position. Is that side by side for P4 as they come up towards the left-hander and onto one of the longer straights here at Red Lodge. The top two breaking away, Harrison Crosby and Luca Hopkins, as they did last time out in race number 2. And Harrison Crosby in line to potentially seize the championship lead in the third and final race of the weekend in the AC40 rookies class. Still the race is over those top 2 positions, but none of the top 5 are really out of contention. As we get to the end of the opening lap and having to work hard to defend, they're coming off the final turn. Harrison Crosby with Luca Hopkins right on his tail. Sullivan Mounsey then still in third position, with Jamie Woodcock up in fourth and ahead of Ethan Sparks, but only narrowly. Sparks with a brilliant getaway, coming through from 6th on the grid. And now up into 5th position, the rider to miss out, Orlando Phillips, who dropped a position on that opening lap. Side by side again for 4th position, with Sparks looking faster than Woodcock at the moment. Can't convert that into pace though down the straight and up towards the top bend, and positions are currently static, but not too much in it between Harrison Crosby and Luca Hopkins. A tenth of a second at the end of the opening lap, and still trying to find a way through is Luca Hopkins. He was very close to Harrison Crosby coming off Paddock Bend on the opening lap. See if he can make his move on Paddock Bend this time around as we come towards the end of lap number 2. Then again looking up the inside is Luca Hopkins, this time not close enough to challenge. Harrison Crosby runs narrow, going down the inside into turn number 1. That blocks out Hopkins. Sullivan Mountsie looking to the inside as they come around Senna, getting alongside for P2. Close racing further back down the field as well for 6th and 7th positions. And it looks as though Orlando Phillips has actually lost out in that battle. We'll see as they come past us. To me, it looked as though Orlando Phillips dropped back behind James Rose into 7th position. That'll give James Rose P6. Ethan Sparks had got the better of Jamie Woodcock on that last lap, and a new fastest lap of the race from Ethan Sparks, who now goes off in pursuit of Sullivan Mountsie. He's joined the battle for the top 4 positions, and Jamie Woodcock starting to drop back in P5. That does indeed give the opportunity to Harrison Crosby to pick up the points he needs in this race to become the new championship leader, but he's still under severe pressure from Luca Hopkins, who's almost up the inside coming into Paddock Bend. Harrison Crosby having to defend supremely here. Hopkins is the faster of the two of them, but swerving to block going into turn number 1. Harrison Crosby running down the inside of the start-finish straight on each lap here, and then moving out just far enough to block Luca Hopkins into turn number 1. Hopkins is going to have to regroup here and come up with something slightly different to try and make that pass, because Crosby doing as he did last time out, where he just runs to the inside down the straights and forces Hopkins to go the longer way around the outside, and there's no route through on the outside of turn number 1 here at Red Lodge, because it gradually tapers into the sharp left-right section at Senna. So it's Crosby who leads the way ahead of Hopkins in 2nd position. The top quartet pulling clear now down the Simpson Straight of the group behind, which is led by James Rose, getting the better of Jamie Woodcock and Orlando Phillips in the early stages. It's still Crosby, still from Hopkins. Hopkins again has the momentum down the start-finish straight. Again, Crosby goes to the inside down the straight and then moves the block back into turn number 1. Ethan Sparks, a new fastest lap of the race once again on the tail of Sullivan Mountsie. He has been right pegged into the back of this top trio through the majority of the race so far, after working his way through from 6th position on the grid and up to P4, and now it looks as though he's making his move up the inside coming off 180, gets the better of Sullivan Mountsie and relegates him to 4th position. That's a really good ride from Ethan Sparks on the inside of 180. He was able to bide his time. He was smart enough not to make any rash decisions as he tried to come through the field. He's the fastest man on the circuit at the moment. He's come through from 6th and up to 4th. He's now up in 3rd position, and he's right on the tail of Luca Hopkins, and with Hopkins clearly being held back here by Harrison Crosby, that could give a real opportunity to Ethan Sparks to upset these top 2, who were also the top 2 in the last race out, race number 2 this weekend. Ethan Sparks came in behind them on that occasion, but he might be about to improve on that with another new fastest lap of the race. 0.4 of a second faster than Hopkins in front of him. The top 3 starting to come up against lap traffic now. Is that going to present an opportunity to Sparks, who goes in a different direction but can't quite get there? Mountsie then cutting through on the inside into 4th position, but starting to drop back from the top trio. Sparks again looking for the inside move coming off 180. Not close enough this lap around. He's got such a pace advantage over the 2 riders in front of him. At the moment it looks as though it's only a matter of time before he finds a way through. Luca Hopkins desperately needs to clear Harrison Crosby, because we've seen so far that Hopkins has the pace advantage and could potentially live with Ethan Sparks, but not for the moment, because Ethan Sparks is right on his tail and gaining ground. Coming back down towards our commentary position then, the front runners negotiating lap traffic, and that's going to give an opportunity to Sparks, who goes all the way around the outside of the paddock bend and through up into 2nd position. It's Crosby then leading at the end of lap 6 from Ethan Sparks in 2nd. He seized his moment perfectly to get the better of Luca Hopkins, who got held up by a back marker on the inside line going around paddock bend, and Sparks then looked to the outside line and came through for P2, and now he's looking to the inside for P1 into 180. He's already made a couple of inside passing moves coming off 180. This time around he wasn't quite close enough to challenge, but it's Harrison Crosby, who hasn't seemed the fastest rider in this race so far, who leads the way, and it's Ethan Sparks who's come through from 6th position brilliantly to now sit in P2. 3rd is with Luca Hopkins, still in line for another podium finish, and still a good day for him after a 2nd position finish last time out. Sullivan Mountsie in 4th position, at the moment set to miss out on the podium altogether this weekend, but he has been once again competitive, and he's still only about a second away from the race leader, and the race leader is Harrison Crosby under pressure from Ethan Sparks. Looks as though Sullivan Mountie's gained a position on that lap around ahead of Luca Hopkins, confirmed now by the timing as they cross the start-finish straight. So Luca Hopkins, who was shaking the bike forward, urging it forward as he came over the start-finish straight last time around, must be down on power compared to what he wants, because he looks frustrated with the machine. It's Harrison Crosby in front from Ethan Sparks in second, Sullivan Mountsie in third, and Luca Hopkins in fourth position. So Mountsie back in a provisional podium position. Luca Hopkins, who finished runner-up last time out, is being dropped by the top trio now, and Mountsie in turn has about a half a second deficit to Ethan Sparks up ahead of him. Sparks trying to go all the way around the outside of Crosby around the top bend. There's no route through there, but it does give you the inside then for the right-hander, and he was almost alongside but had to back out of it. That certainly killed his own momentum, and Sullivan Mountsie now has the impetus as they come down the Simpson Straight and back towards Paddock Bend. Mountsie held up though in traffic, and that's going to give an opportunity to Luca Hopkins here. Mountsie though finding his way through as he takes third position in the drag race down to the line. A new personal best on the final lap from Harrison Crosby, who takes the checkered flag, holding off Ethan Sparks. It was a brilliant ride from Sparks, who came through the grid from sixth position, made passing manoeuvre after passing manoeuvre to come through for second. A highly entertaining race to get us underway here this afternoon. Harrison Crosby coming out on top, Ethan Sparks coming over the line in second, Sullivan Mountsie taking third, his first podium of the 2017 season. Luca Hopkins just missing out, and James Rose performing another creditable ride to come through from 10th on the grid and round out the top 5 finishers with a new personal best on the final lap.
The original and British Championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge.
emergency response.
Original and best British Championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing.
Next up is the AC40 Pro category. Had a highly entertaining race in race number 2 with Casey O'Gorman and Ross Maguire taking one another out, coming around Senna after a brilliant tussle for the race lead. They will renew their rivalry after finishing in the top 2 positions in race number 1 yesterday. Sandy Horn was the beneficiary to take the checkered flag in race 2. coming from the 5th row of the grid once again from P9 and coming through to take the checkered flag last time out. Johnny Garner's finished runner-up. Now up to 3rd position in the championship. Only 3 points in arrears of Evan Belford. Belford finished behind Garnes in race number 2 and had suffered a DNF in race 1. So a pretty sizable gap between 1st and 2nd positions in the championship at the moment. Ross Maguire leading it on 95 points, but his rivals were certainly aided by that DNF in race number 2 from Ross Maguire. After a fall, I think it was 16th position classified in the end. Back from the leaders, and a non-scoring ride in race 2 from Ross Maguire. So Casey O'Gorman versus Ross Maguire on the front row. Johnny Garnes goes off P3 following a double podium finish in the opening 2 races of this weekend. He sits 3rd in the series on 62 points with 33 to make up on the leader Maguire. Dylan Mellor completes the 2nd row off P4. 3rd row of the grid is with Owen Mellor, who sits in 6th position in the championship on 56 points, all included with that race number 2 result earlier on today. Ollie Walker in 7th position in the series on 53 points, starts on row number 3. Row 4 is comprised of Eddie O'Shea, who's currently tied in 4th position in the series with Sandy Horn following victory in race number 2. Eddie O'Shea, 2 solid double-figure score efforts so far this weekend, and Evan Belford completing that 4th row of the grid, currently in line for 2nd position in the championship. Completing the top 10, Sandy Horn and Emmanuel Brinton. We saw some brilliant racing between the top 9 last time out in race number 2. Some chaos as well. Watch for those two who were the top 2 at the time of their incident in race number 2. Casey O'Gorman and Ross Maguire. It's a brilliant turbo boosted start from Johnny Garner from P3 straight up to 2nd position, and Ross Maguire relegated to 3rd before cutting back through on the inside to take up the challenge once again in 2nd place. It's Casey O'Gorman who leads from Ross Maguire in 2nd. 3rd is with Johnny Garner, who's away well once again. Close for 5th position at the moment, with Eddie O'Shea trying to move his way through the pack. In fact, just looking at it from a distance here, he may have already found his way through into 6th. Looks like he's making his way through into 5th position, down the inside into the top bend. So Eddie O'Shea is on the march from further down the order, from 7th on the grid. Looks as though he's up into 5th position in the early stages of this race number 3 in the AC40 Pro category. And O'Shea moving through the field really well in this outing. And in fact, I think has now captured 4th position. So working his way up through the field. That is indeed confirmed by the timing. So Eddie O'Shea up to 4th position. Owen Mellor in 5th. Sandy Horn also moving through, having started in 9th place up to 6th place. Dylan Mellor is one of the riders to miss out, dropping down to 7th, and a surprise to see Evan Belford as far back as 9th position. Emmanuel Brinton rounding out the top 10. O'Shea under pressure now. Mellor trying to come back at him as they come through the left-hander. Certainly Mellor getting the inside run coming off 180, and Eddie O'Shea managing to hold on to the position. There's not much in it at the moment in any of the top 8 or 9 places, all pretty closely packed on the circuit as we get through lap number 2. The front pair starting to break away, with Casey O'Gorman once again out in front, tracked in 2nd position by Ross Maguire, half a second back but faster on that last lap. Johnny Garnes in 3rd. I did say that a deficit was starting to appear between 2nd and 3rd positions, and Garnes is under a lot of pressure now from Eddie O'Shea, who seems much faster in this one than he did in his 2 previous outings. Thinks about a move down the inside into the left-right, and again that'll give him the inside run coming off 180 if he wants it. Owen Mellor is pursuing closely, and the group of 4 is being joined now. I say a group of 4 because Sandy Horn is right on the back of them, and it's 4 riders all coming up the hill more or less together, with a gap behind them then to Dylan Mellor, who's an isolated 7th place, and a separate group then from 8th position down, involving Ryan Hitchcock, Evan Belford and Emmanuel Brinton. Side by side at the moment for 5th position as they come down towards the bottom end of the circuit, and Casey O'Gorman versus Ross Maguire. It's take 3. Maguire with another new fastest lap of the race to bring himself to within 0.2 of a second. O'Gorman stopped. O'Gorman with mechanical problems coming around Senna. The race leader dropping back, and it looks terminal for Casey O'Gorman, who's dropping well out of contention now. That'll move Johnny Garnes up into 2nd position, and this fight that was over P3 is now over 2 podiums. podium positions. A group of 4 riders going together, then a very slight gap behind Sandy Horn to Dylan Mellor, and another group of 3 or 4 riders all involved in the action. And there's a good race going on for what is now 6th position coming around the top bend. Back to the race for second place. Eddie O'Shea trying to gain ground now on Johnny Garnes, but Garnes has been riding a good defensive ride. So it's Garnes over the line in second position, O'Shea over the line in third, closing up for 4th position as well, Owen Mellor and Sandy Horn. Real frustration for Casey O'Gorman after a non-finish last time out, of course, following that fall and incidents involving himself and Ross Maguire, and it was those two who were out in front once again. I cannot believe that this pack is still running as an absolute train all the way down from second position right the way through to the fringes of the top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 riders all going together, coming on to the Simpson Straight, with Johnny Garnes leading Eddie O'Shea. The race lead is now comfortable for Ross Maguire, who only needs to keep it on the bike, of course, after a fall last time out. And this will further extend his championship lead. I did say that there was some overtaking action going on around the top turn, and that was Sandy Horn getting the better of Owen Mellor. So Sandy Horn, the winner in race number 2, is into this leading group and moving through within it. On the tail now of Eddie O'Shea, and O'Shea has been labouring at trying to get the better of Johnny Garnes. Garnes with a new personal best on the previous lap number 5. Eddie O'Shea in third position at the moment, in line for a podium finish. Ryan Hitchcock challenging on the inside, by the looks of it, of Dylan Mellor around the top turn. A group of 4 riders, Johnny Garnes down to Owen Mellor, all very closely packed, and then Dylan Mellor about a second in arrears of that as they come around Paddock Bend to complete lap number 6. Ross Maguire is away and gone. Johnny Garnes with Eddie O'Shea right on his tail. No change in those positions. New personal best for all of the riders from 2nd down to 7th, including Evan Belford, who's gained on Dylan Mellor. Mellor dropping back. I did say Hitchcock was alongside him. Hitchcock getting the better of Dylan Mellor earlier in the lap, and then Evan Belford coming through as well. Still close for second place. Johnny Garnes ahead of Eddie O'Shea, and then Sandy Horn trying to join the back of them. Was about a 1/10 of a second faster than O'Shea on the last lap, 2/10 of a second faster than Garnes. So we've got 4 riders there separated by less than a second from 2nd down into 5th position. Then a little bit further back, Ryan Hitchcock leading that group with Evan Belford and Dylan Mellor, and that rounds out the top 8 with Emmanuel Brinton leading a separate race from 9th position down, narrowly ahead of James Cook and Jimmy Parker. Completing lap number 7, and this time around it looks as though Johnny Garnes has dropped Eddie O'Shea, and that's into the clutches of Sandy Horn. Horn faster by almost 2/10 of a second than O'Shea on that last lap, and trying to find a way through. O'Shea meanwhile is probing on the inside as they come down towards 180. He's going to go for the cutback coming off 180. He has the inside line, but he doesn't quite have the pace to pull alongside Johnny Garnes, who still occupies second position with 3 laps remaining. O'Shea is setting off in pursuit up Oak Tree and down towards the top bend and through the S's. The race leader is already well and truly gone towards the checkered flag. 5 seconds up, Ross Maguire. He's lapping at a similar pace now to Johnny Garnes, who sits in second position, but he's already built his leading buffer and doesn't need to do anything crazy from here. Just needs to keep it on the bike and head towards the checkered flag, which will be his first race victory of the weekend, of course, after finishing runner-up to Casey O'Gorman in race number 1 and failing to score in race number 2. New personal best for Johnny Garnes, who realises he's under pressure. Eddie O'Shea in third position still. Sandy Horn dropping back ever so slightly on that previous lap. It's now all about how quickly they negotiate back markers, and Horn was caught out there slightly coming through traffic and into 180, and then the separate group behind from Owen Mellor downwards was held up even more by meeting the back markers at the wrong point, and I think that's decided our top 4 positions, but it's now a question of what order they'll finish in. Ryan Hitchcock going well on that last lap with a new personal best on the number 43 bike, 6th position at the moment, and leading that group behind that features Evan Belford, who's been right on his tail for a lap or so now. We're under yellow flags through 180. That's one of the best passing places on the circuit, so the riders will have to be a little bit more cautious through there. Still Garnes, O'Shea and Horn in that order. Horn particularly close now to Eddie O'Shea for that third position. Will any of the positions change through the 180 with that yellow flag now withdrawn. Not this time around. Garners, O'Shea and Horn, Ryan Hitchcock and Evan Belford completing the top 6 with Owen Mellor dropping back. Separate changes further down the order with Troy Jeffrey, Josh Bannister and Charlie Tilley all moving up one position. That's in the fringes of the top 15. But no changes in the top positions, even though Ross Maguire has dropped off the pace now and Johnny Garner's starting to gain. There's no way he's going to gain enough to get towards the race leaders in the run down to the checkered flag, which falls for Ross Maguire, who wins race number 3. Second over the line is Johnny Garners after a good defensive ride. Eddie O'Shea takes a new personal best on the final lap, but still can't quite get to Johnny Garners. And Sandy Horn comes up short in 4th position. The race 2 winner, this time restricted further down the order, but still doing a great job to get up from P9. Ryan Hitchcock rounding out the top 5. It turned into a separate race from 5th position down all the way down to 9th place. And Jimmy Parker rounding out the top 10, narrowly behind Emmanuel Brinton over the line, who finishes 9th. Dylan and Owen Mellor running line astern in 7th and 8th positions, but Dylan was closer to the group in front of him, right on the tail of Evan Belford and Ryan Hitchcock for 5th, 6th and 7th positions. So the race results in race number 3 as the AC40 Pro. A win for Ross Maguire ahead of Johnny Garners. The championship leader further extends his leading margin. Eddie O'Shea finishes the weekend on the podium for the first time here in Red Lodge. 4th position going the way of Sandy Horn, and rounding out the top 5, it's Ryan Hitchcock.
This is the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the official partner series to the BSB. Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
Now on to the senior mini-motos in the final round of races at the second round of the 2017 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship here at Red Lodge. Lining up with the current championship leader so far undefeated in the senior mini-motos, Will Howarth on pole position. Alongside him, Richard Holmes-Williams, who's finished runner-up in each of the two races so far this weekend. The best of the battles have been for third position, and we've had third position battles involving Josh Darter, Justin Bainbridge and Paul Nicholls. And those of you listening live on Facebook, I know we've had some support and we've had some messages in for Josh Darter, who will be featuring off the second row here on P3 on the grid. Currently third in the championship standings by my reckoning. I should have added that all of the championship standings that I am giving on the fly come with the disclaimer and caveat that they are my own, just in case there are any discrepancies in what officially gets published later on. These have been worked out on the fly, so any issues that any of you notice, that'll be my problem. Here we go then for race number 3 for the weekend in the senior mini-motos. The front row of the grid, Will Howarth and Richard Holmes-Williams. The second row of the grid, Josh Darter and Justin Bainbridge. The third row of the grid, Paul Nicholls and Ryan Grant. Row 4, Andy Whedon and Matt Birkin. And row 5, Nick Bennett and William Birkin. Now, Nick Bennett from all the way back in P9 finished in 4th place last time out, maintaining his position second in the series. Getting underway with a shaky start for Paul Nicholls by the looks of it. And he got up and running, swerving away to the right as the others all shot through. So Will Howarth it is who occupies the lead, with Richard Holmes-Williams in second. In all of the races we've seen in this class this weekend, the top two have blasted away, and the race has been for third position. It's been a three-way race for third position. Certainly last time out. A DNF last time around for Paul Nicholls, and that leaves him with some work to do. 7 points back from Nick Bennett, who occupies second in the championship. Bennett, Darter and Nicholls in the series overall in that order, covering positions 2, 3 and 4 in the series, which is where most of the action is at the moment this weekend. The top two pulling well clear then, as I said. The race is for third position on track, with Josh Darter ahead of Justin Bainbridge. Interestingly, Paul Nicholls did drop well back on the opening lap. I said he got away very poorly from 5th position on the grid, and he's dropped down to 7th, so we're watching him to see whether he can make a recovery through the field. The answer is not so far, as the front two pull well clear. They've got 3 seconds now between Will Howarth and Josh Darter. Howarth in first and Darter in third. Richard Holmes-Williams between them. Justin Bainbridge in 4th position. Although saying that, Bainbridge appears to have come through as they come past our commentary position on the home straight. I can confirm that. The number 11 bike now ahead of the number 26, and further back Paul Nicholls starting to make some progress. Nick Bennett down in 8th position. That's important in terms of the championship. It's Paul Nicholls 2 positions further ahead of them. He has got the better of Matt Birkin on that last lap. Birkin still close to the back of him as they come through 180. Further up the race for third position, Justin Bainbridge is leaving Josh Darter now that he's moved through into P3. Bainbridge did finish in that coveted third position last time out. with Nick Bennett behind him and Josh Data finishing in 5th position. Data sitting in 4th position at the moment, but we're watching for the recovery of Paul Nicholls after that DNF last time out. He has well and truly dropped Matt Birkin on this lap and is now closing right up onto the tail of Andy Whedon, who sits in 5th position. 0.6 of a second between the two of them, half a second quicker on that lap. Paul Nicholls closing up as they come through the twisty infield section, a pair of chicanes here heading into the 180, and then the high speed section of the circuit, all the way up Oak Tree round the S's and back down the Simpson Straight towards the end of the lap. Well, heading on to the Simpson Straight now is the current race leader, Will Howarth, 3 seconds clear of Richard Holmes-Williams in 2nd position. Justin Bainbridge 3 seconds further back, so the front three well spread now, and the race for 3rd position has settled down to a much greater extent than it did in either race 1 or race 2, with Justin Bainbridge about half a second ahead of Josh Data. Data closing up a little bit as I watch out of the corner of my eye. Paul Nicholls passing Andy Whedon for P5. So Paul Nicholls is up to 5th position with Andy Whedon dropping back. A new personal best on that last lap from Paul Nicholls. He's not quite up with the pace of Justin Bainbridge and Josh Data, and he's got a lot of ground to make up if he wants to make it to join that battle for the 3rd step on the podium. He sits 5th. Matt Birkin with a new personal best on that previous lap, lap number 4 as well, and he also gaining some ground on Andy Whedon. Round about 0.4 of a second, but he sits 2 seconds in arrears. As Will Howarth starts to come through and negotiate lapped traffic, just passing Marcus Fairclough as he goes into lap number 6. Richard Holmes-Williams just over 3 seconds in arrears now. Justin Bainbridge with a 1 second advantage over Josh Data as he sits 3rd. Paul Nicholls in 5th position, losing ground on Josh Data on that previous lap, and Justin Bainbridge was able to accelerate away from Josh Data because he'd set a new personal best. So it's Howarth, Holmes-Williams, Bainbridge, Data and Nicholls in the top 5, and the positions seem to have settled down, whereas we had some really frantic action in races 1 and 2. In race 3 in the senior mini motos, things have settled down quite nicely. In terms of the championship, Nick Bennett, who currently sits 2nd on 57 points, is all the way down in 8th, and he will slip out of that 2nd position as things stand. Justin Bainbridge sat on 31 championship points by my reckoning coming into this race, and he's going to put in another big performance here, but that will leave him with opportunities to try and gain further ground in the coming rounds. At the moment, watching Josh Data come through towards the 180. He's in line for 13 points here that would move him on to 67 and move him above Nick Bennett into 2nd in the championship standings. Paul Nicholls 1 place behind him is 4 points in arrears already of Josh Data. So if things stay as they are, Will Howarth will have a massive advantage in the championship standings, and it'll be Josh Data moving up into 2nd in the series overall, Paul Nicholls moving up into 3rd overall, and Nick Bennett, who had falls and all sorts of dramas in Clandau but has calmed it down this weekend and had a steady weekend, well, he would drop out of the top 3 in the provisional championship standings. Howarth 4 seconds clear from Richard Holmes-Williams in 2nd, Justin Bainbridge in 3rd, Josh Data dropping back in 4th position, Paul Nicholls in P5. Those of you listening live on Facebook, please do keep leaving your messages as we go through the day. We want to hear from you with all of your updates. We want to know which riders you're supporting for, and please do keep your messages coming, and I understand that they will also be appearing on the screen at intervals during our coverage. Also live online radio, of course, on the Cool FAB-Racing website. And for those of you who are listening at home, of course, we're also loud over the PA system. So if you hear anything that sounds a little bit strange, it's probably a notice to the riders trackside. Will Howarth in front by 5 seconds, clear of Richard Holmes-Williams in 2nd, Justin Bainbridge in 3rd. A full 12 seconds now separating the top 3. Josh Data's dropped to almost 3 seconds in arrears of Justin Bainbridge as well. And this race seems to have settled down because the riders are lapping with gaps between them. Howarth just coming over the line with 1 lap to go. We are into the last lap now. Howarth ahead of Richard Holmes-Williams, Justin Bainbridge in 3rd, Josh Data in 4th, Paul Nicholls in 5th position. He'll be pleased with a race finish this time around after a frustrating DNF following a fall around the 180 in race number 2. He'll be getting some championship points on the board. He just crosses the line now, 22 seconds back from the race leader, Will Howarth. And in terms of the championship points, it'll be Josh Data moving into 2nd in the series, Paul Nicholls moving into 3rd, and the positions will remain otherwise unchanged. Richard Holmes-Williams, of course, also making progress this weekend. He'll be on 60 points after 3 second-place finishes, but he's not going to get to Will Howarth, and it's Will Howarth who makes it 3 wins out of 3, 6 wins out of 6, still unbeaten in the senior mini-motos in the 2017 championship, and he moves into a commanding series lead now on a maximum 150 championship points after 2 completed rounds of the season. 2nd over the line, it's Richard Holmes-Williams. 3rd going to Justin Bainbridge. Josh Data now crossing the line 5 seconds in arrears of Bainbridge, so we didn't get the frantic race for 3rd position that we'd seen previously. Paul Nicholls, who started P5 on the grid, got off to a very poor start and dropped well back to the fringes of the top 10, but recovered quite easily to 5th and takes that 5th position in the end, ahead of Andy Whedon, Matt Birkin, Nick Bennett, William Birkin and Ryan Grant, who round out the top 10. So Nick Bennett with an 8th place finish drops out of P2 in the championship standings, with Josh Data and Paul Nicholls overhauling him, and those are now the top 3. Will Howarth, Josh Data and Paul Nicholls in the championship standings after race 3 this weekend here in Red Lodge in the senior mini-motos.
The original and best British championships for mini bikes.
You are tuned in to
The Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, Round 2, Red Lodge.
We're now going to progress to some steps which are a bit more difficult. Ready? And begin.
The official partner series to the BSB. This is Cool Fab Racing.
Ready.
It is
Go, go, go!
This is the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship.
Next up is the Junior LC40 category. The championship currently led by Casey O'Gorman, who's got the better of Ross Maguire in their 2 meetings so far in this LC40 category. They line up off the front row here. In fact, the top 4 in the championship standings at present sit in the top 4 positions on the grid. Casey O'Gorman, double winner this weekend here at Red Lodge. 2 wins out of 2 for him. Alongside him, Ross Maguire, currently second in the championship. with 27 points to make up. Third on the grid, it's Aidan Davey. He's dropped behind Ross Maguire this weekend after a non-finishing ride last time out following a mechanical failure. Fourth position on the grid, Bailey Stewart Campbell. Finished on the third step of the podium in race number 2 after a fourth position finish first time out. He's fourth in the championship. The closest fight in the series overall is for second position between Maguire and Davey, who sit second and third on the grid here. So the riders are underway with their warm-up lap then for the Junior LC40 category. Casey O'Gorman and Ross Maguire, the top 2 in the championship standings, featuring off the front row and just weaving their way around the infield section on the circuit here. So I'm now joined in commentary by Max Cook, and looking forward to this Junior LC40 race which he's going to call with us. They're settling in on the grids and preparing to get underway. Reminder, Casey O'Gorman off the front row alongside Ross Maguire. Casey O'Gorman unbeaten this weekend. Ross Maguire, 2 runner-up positions so far. Aidan Davey, a non-finisher last time out, goes off P3. He's currently third in the championship, 2 points in arrears of Maguire, and that's where the fight really is between positions 2 and 3 in the series overall. Watching the lights as they go out. A good start from third on the grid from Aidan Davey. Not quite good enough, though, to get to the inside line where he wants to be. Watch from further down the order as well, with fights in the midfield, as we see the early race leader, Casey O'Gorman, trying to blast clear as he has done in each of his appearances so far. They're working their way through the 180, more or less side by side for second position, and that's where the battle is at the moment, with Aidan Davey, despite a good getaway from the inside on the second row of the grid, dropping back to fourth position in the early stages. Still close then for second position as they work their way through down the Simpson Straight back towards Paddock Bend. Casey O'Gorman trying to pull clear ahead of Ross Maguire. Still close for second, third and fourth positions. Aidan Davey trying to get back with the group now, and there's a bit of a gap starting to emerge behind fourth position. It's Bailey Stewart Campbell who's made the progress on the opening lap from fourth position up to second. Ross Maguire in third and Aidan Davey in fourth position with a bit of a gap behind them, and Declan Connell is then leading the next group ahead of Evan Belford, Taylor Lawrence and James Cook. And I'm just seeing Aidan Davey trying to go up the inside of Ross Maguire and actually making that move, coming off the 180 and through for third position. So Max, how familiar are you with some of the riders who are appearing on the circuit at the moment in this Junior LC40 category?
Yeah, quite familiar. I mean, I've got my brother he's at 8th position at the minute, and seen all of the races at the minute. You got like Casey O'Gorman and Ross and everyone, know them really well, and they're doing a really good job here today.
Don't get too biased watching your brother then. He actually made a position on that last lap, getting the better of Sandy Horn, up from 10th position on the grid and now sitting in P8. Emmanuel Brinton and Ryan Hitchcock also moving past Horn on that last lap, lap number 2. They are very close now for the top 2 positions. Casey O'Gorman leading the way, but Ross Maguire with a new fastest lap of the race on lap number 2 to get right in touch. 0.2 of a second between the top 2. Aidan Davey also moving past Bailey Stewart Campbell, who's dropped like a stone there on lap number 2 after a brilliant getaway and perfect first lap. It hasn't quite worked out for him since then. The top 2 making their break. Aidan Davey trying to stay with them. The top 3 in the championship are in the top 3 positions here. Maguire looking for a way through on Casey O'Gorman, and it's certainly Ross Maguire who has the pace at the moment in this Junior LC40 category, race number 3. weaving their way through back down towards the 180. Ross Maguire has the speed here, Max, just trying to find his way through. He's going to look up the inside off 180. That's been a favoured passing place here today.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually ridden the infield bit, but you can just see it's just really good overtaking bit, because you get people going wide and you just get someone cut up the inside of them. I think we've got a faller up over there.
We have indeed, just coming off the left-hander and onto Oak Tree all the way up the straight, and we are continuing under yellow flags. The immediate thing that, of course, we want to say is that the rider is straight up to their feet, and that's good news, even if the bike looks somewhat worse for wear, because I must say, when it went down the bike, all sorts of pieces started to come off it, so that's not good news for whatever parents got to fix that back in the paddock. It's still close for the top two positions. Casey O'Gorman and Ross Maguire ahead of Aidan Davey. I actually think that faller might have been Bailey Stewart-Campbell, but I can't quite see from all the way back here. It's pretty difficult to tell. The front three have splintered clear. There's then a separate race for 4th, 5th and 6th positions between Declan Connell, Evan Belford and Taylor Lawrence, who round out the top 6. I'm looking for those top 2 again. Casey O'Gorman still holding off Ross Maguire. You've been riding on this circuit this weekend, Max, so how difficult is it to get past someone here? Because it looks as though on the high speed stuff there's no big braking zone to get up the inside of someone, and it takes a bit of a lunge.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, on the infield you've got a bit more of a chance of getting someone, but you just kind of got to get it set up right, and I think Ross is just trying to stay behind him until the last couple of laps, and then he'll pull a move.
At the moment he's holding station, certainly looking up to the inside coming off. He's lining himself up, running slightly wider into some of those hairpin bends, and then trying to get the exit speed and claw his way alongside. It's not quite worked out so far, and Casey O'Gorman set a new fastest lap of the race on lap number 5 to increase that gap, but only by an absolute fraction. In fact, less than a tenth of a second. I say less than a tenth of a second, it was literally 1/100th of a second. The two are still closely packed together as they come around Paddock Bend to complete lap number 6. It's Casey O'Gorman in front, Ross Maguire in second, still less than 2/10 of a second between them. Aidan Davey trying to go with them, but doesn't seem to have the pace in this race number 3, and then a massive deficit to the rest of the pack from 4th position down, and 4th, 5th and 6th still going together. Declan Connell, Evan Belford and Taylor Lawrence, with a new personal best further down the order for James Cook and Ryan Hitchcock, and James is 2 seconds behind Taylor at the moment. He's having a steady race, he's having a bit of an isolated race at the moment as well, just trying to gain some ground on the group ahead of him. Max, some big names in this group, your Casey O'Gormans and Ross Maguire, so brother doing well, mixing it with them, and up in 7th position at the moment.
Yeah, it's good. I know he's been, the bike's not been 100% and everything, but he just every session picking away, and I reckon by the end of the season he's going to be up there with the rest of them, so I mean, he's just chipping away slowly, but he'll get there.
And that's what it's all about for all of the riders, really, gaining track time, seat time, and just trying to, gradually improve within their category and work their way up the ladder. That's the great thing about this championship, is that there's an immediate way you achieve in one category, and then you can move straight on to the next one.
Yeah, so I mean, in this class they're always learning, aren't they? So every session they're learning something new, and then they can progress all the way up and then towards wherever they want to go. So, it's really good.
There's 2 races in 1 at the moment. Casey O'Gorman has still got Ross Maguire for company. Maguire set a new fastest lap of the race on lap number 7, but they're lapping at such similar pace, it's hard to see where Maguire's going to make that pass unless Casey O'Gorman makes an error, which so far hasn't been forthcoming, and he's even started to run tighter coming off the bends, knowing that Maguire is coming for him. Evan Belford getting the better of Declan Connell on that last lap for P4. In fact, they were pretty close on the previous lap around, but Belford has now managed to extend that leading margin from 4th position. Connell dropping a place back then. Taylor Lawrence still on the tail of them. That's the 3-way tussle just heading up the hill now, past the Oak Tree and up towards the top turn. But they're still almost side by side for that race leading position. Where's the best place for Ross Maguire to try and make this move, Max?
I think if Ross can get a good run on the straight, maybe up into that tight left, maybe even on the last corner, but I mean, wherever he can find his ground above Casey.
you know all about that last corner because there's been some overtaking involving yourself over there, hasn't there?
Yeah, it's quite tricky where you got like the right going straight into a left. You know, it's quite difficult. But when you get it right, then you know you've got it right.
We're into the last lap now for the current race leader, Casey O'Gorman, by just over a tenth of a second from Ross Maguire. Aidan Davey being dropped in third. The top three in this race are also the top three in the championship standings, so the gap between them will gradually be extended here. And Bailey Stewart-Campbell, who made it onto the podium last time out, is unable to do so once again in this one. It's Casey O'Gorman then who takes the checkered flag ahead of Ross Maguire. A good defensive ride from Casey. Second place Ross then. Third position going to Aidan Davey, back in the points after a non-finish last time out, but he will drop further in arrears of Ross Maguire in that second position in the championship. Evan Belford holding on after making a good overtake on Declan Connell for P4. Connell rounding out the top five. Taylor Lawrence and James Cook coming through. Like you said, actually, James with a new personal best on the last lap, so gradually improving as the race goes on. In an isolated seventh position, but seventh is not at all disrespectful. That's a good result there in seventh position for James.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so looking at the result in full then, top five, Casey O'Gorman ahead of Ross Maguire in second, Aidan Davey in third, Evan Belford in fourth position, and Declan Connell rounding out the top five. So that's race 3 completed in the junior LC40 category, and that gives us an opportunity to chat a bit more about you, Max, and just tell us firstly what your plans are in full for the 2017 season.
So at the minute I'm racing a Moto3 standard Honda in BSB, and I'm currently leading the championship with a perfect score so far. So I've won 4 out of 4 races, and you know I'm just really enjoying it at the minute, and just can't wait for the rest of the year.
Obviously, you're involved here at Cool FAB-Racing as well in terms of your kind of mentoring of young riders. You've mentioned, obviously, your brothers out there as well. So you're well and truly involved in this paddock, not just as a rider.
Yeah, I know. I come to every round, and I know on Friday night we did a track walk, and you know it was really good, and all the kids just like to listen to me, and you got Charlie Nesbitt as well, just listen to us. It's just really nice to feel that we've actually kind of got somewhere, but if it wasn't for here, then I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am. So I'm really happy with everything.
The great thing about this championship is that exactly that, seeing the riders progress up through from one category to the next and working their way towards the ultimate goal. I mean, what is your ultimate target within the sport?
I want to get to MotoGP. I want to be MotoGP champion, and I think the way I'm going at the minute, if I carry this on, then I think I've got a good chance of getting there. So just keep enjoying it and chipping away and trying to get there, and it'll just be a dream come true. That's a big target, rubbing shoulders with some top riders, and something to look forward to in the future. We need as much British talent as we can in MotoGP, because the Italians and the Spaniards have held sway for quite a long time, and the British riders have obviously had or been a dominant force in superbike competition, but perhaps not as much success in MotoGP. Here we go then, we're lining up for the next one out, which is the split grid race, the Pit Bike 140s and the Moto Team category. Stay with us for this one, Max, as we talk it through, if you can. And we've got 2 classes in one here, so we've got the Moto Team riders and we've got the Pit Bike 140 riders. In the Pit Bike 140 category, we've got Jamie King, who's riding injured this weekend, who leads the way in the series overall, but has to start from 11th position on the grid. He's on 104 championship points, and his nearest rival in the series overall, who has already made back 7 points on him this weekend, is Ben Pascoe. We're underway with the warm-up lap, and Jamie King then starting 3 rows back from Ben Pascoe on the 6th row of the grid, and in P11, Pascoe starting in 5th place on the grid after a runner-up finish last time out. He's been on the podium in both of the races this weekend in the PB 140 category. The winner of each of the 2 Pit Bike 140 races so far has been James Blackburn, who didn't feature in Clandau, therefore has a lot of work to do in the series standings overall, but he's already on 50
points after 2 race victories. And the other rider who didn't feature in Clandau, who's been well and truly in the mix for the top positions each time out, is Alex Vella, who picked up a second place in race number 1 and picked up 10 points in race number 2 after a fall. Vella's just settling in here off the second row of the grid. So it's Sam Clowes off the front row alongside James Blackburn, Will Howarth, the current Moto team leader, of P3, and Alex Vella of P4. Well, they're almost going to go 4 abreast down into the first turn, with Will Howarth making a good start and Alex Vella also making a good jump from the second row of the grid. And Vella's up to second and Howarth retaining that third position, with Sam Clowes, by the looks of it, dropping back in the early stages. So James Blackburn has been the winner in the Pit Bike 140 category in each of the races so far and leads it here. This category providing plenty of chaos, obviously, with 2 classes in one. Here we go then, down towards the end of this opening lap, with James Blackburn leading the way ahead of Alex Vella in second, Will Howarth in third, and as I called it, Sam Clowes missing out from pole position on the start, but he's going through on the inside of Will Howarth for third position. So Howarth dropping back to fourth. 2 categories in one. When it's like this, it must be complicated for a rider to try and discern who's in what class and who they need to be fighting. I'm guessing you guys don't really care who you're racing, you just try and pass them anyway.
Yeah.
James Blackburn leading us at the end of lap number 2, ahead of Alex Vella in second. A new fastest lap of the race from Sam Clowes as he gets the better of Will Howarth. He did so with an inside move into the top turn on lap number 2, and he's leaving Howarth now well adrift. It doesn't matter for Howarth because Howarth is the top runner in the Moto team class, ahead of Steve Ball and Fraser Kinnaird, who sit in 5th and 6th positions. Kinnaird, of course, after a retirement last time out. It's Blackburn who leads us once again, but this time he's joined by Vella after Vella's fall last time out. We'll see if he has the pace to get the better of his main rival this weekend. That's how it's turned out. Sam Clowes, who sits third in the Moto team category. As they come around the Simpson Straight once again, with James Blackburn leading the way ahead of Alex Vella in second. Sam Clowes in third position, having set a new fastest lap of the race last time around, now right on the tail of the top 2. Pretty good running from these top 3, Max, in the Pit Bike 140 category. James Blackburn, Alex Vella and Sam Clowes have all been on one another's pace and knocking spots off one another this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's been good racing between the 3 of them. I see you got Will Howarth there leading the Moto team. I think the Pit Bike 140 is a little bit faster than Moto team, depending on which kind of bike you've got. But yeah, no, there's really good racing for first position.
For those listeners listening in from home who might not be too familiar, can you give us an idea of what the difference is between the Moto team bikes compared to the Pit Bike 140s?
So, well, I'm not too familiar, but I know the Pit Bike 140 is just a pit bike. It's basically a motocross frame with like a pit bike engine, like 140cc, and then you got the Moto team, which is kind of like build your own bikes. They would get a chassis from, say, a road going bike, and they'll fit like a pit bike engine, or an engine which is below, I think, I would say 200cc 4-stroke or 100cc 2-stroke. So I think they can have any kind of engine between them, and it's just basically just a bit of fun.
Well, it's been quite good fun between the top 4 in this race. In the 2 previous races so far this weekend, James Blackburn, Alex Vella, Sam Clowes and Will Howarth. Howarth's been dropped by the top 3 in this race, but as you said previously, actually, Max, obviously he's racing in a separate category, so he is the leader in class, which is the Moto team race, ahead of Steve Ball, and third in the Moto team category is with Fraser Kinnaird, who set a new personal best on lap number 6, but is well adrift at the moment of the rest of the group. Ben Pascoe, surprisingly, pretty far back, although he's trying to challenge now for 5th position in the race. And actually, it looks to me from our commentary position as though he's taken that 5th position away from Steve Ball. It doesn't matter in terms of the championship points, because obviously Pascoe and Ball are in separate categories, but Ben Pascoe will want to get the better of both Ball and Howarth to then set off in pursuit of the current top 3, James Blackburn, Alex Vella and Sam Klaus, who are still in that order as they start to negotiate lap traffic. Vella held back slightly there as they came through the right-hander and onto Oak Tree. How complicated is it to try and make the decision, Max, as to which way to go when you're passing back markers? Because we've seen loads of overtaking this weekend with people maybe making the wrong decision, going right instead of left, and then finding themselves losing out on places.
Yeah, it's a tricky one really, because sometimes you never know where they're going to go. So I think you kind of just got to go for it and just hope that you're successful with the overtake. But I mean, it's especially when you're fighting for the lead and you've got a group behind you, it's just so tricky which way you're going to go.
Sam Klaus dropping back on that last lap number 9, with Will Howarth setting a new personal best from P4 in the race, obviously first in class, but more important in terms of the point scoring, Fraser Kinnaird has overhauled Steve Ball, and there's just a 1/10 of a second between those two as they continue to lap in 6th and 7th positions in the race, but that's worth 2nd and 3rd in the Moto Team category. 8 laps still to go. We are just passing the half race distance. A new fastest lap of the race from Sam Klaus from 3rd position. That's interesting, because on the previous lap he'd got held up passing traffic and ended up dropping into the clutches of Will Howarth. Now he's starting to gain some ground in once again on Alex Vella. It's only a small margin though between their 2 times, because Vella in turn is gaining on James Blackburn. It shows that the top 3 are in fairly similar pace as the top quartet now comes around Paddock Bend and on to the start-finish straight. The start-finish straight, Max, here at Red Lodge is curved, and sometimes that creates some unusual situations. Riders are trying to go wide into that paddock bend and then cut up the inside, but because it's curved, that makes it a little bit more complicated to make that pass.
Yeah, a little bit like you don't want to go on the outside, because where it's curved round to the left and the first quarter's on the left, if there's like a back marker or you want to do an overtake, you kind of just got to cut it in more to the left and just try and dive up the inside of them.
The other thing we've seen a few times in a couple of different categories is riders just riding literally all the way down the inside of the straight, and I guess they're compromising their entry speed to turn 1, but then they know they've got track position because it's another left-hander straight afterwards.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you do want to make an overtake, it's quite tricky to pull it off, but if you can get the drive out of the last corner, then it's a good overtaking spot.
Just watching Steve Ball and Fraser Kinnaird come over the line again within a second of one another. Kinnaird doesn't seem to have the answer at the moment. That's for 2nd in the Moto Team category, which is 6th in the scratch race. Up front it's James Blackburn, who still leads ahead of Alex Vella. Sam Klaus again, the fastest of that trio last lap around, setting a new personal best, and a gap that stood at almost 1.5 seconds is now down to 7/10 of a second between Vella and Klaus in 2nd and 3rd places, with Will Howarth on the tail of them, just trying to spoil their afternoon really, because he is well and truly in front in the Moto Team class. Ben Pascoe further back setting a new personal best. Remember that he is 2nd in the Pit Bike 140 championship standings with an 8-point deficit to Jamie King, but King is all the way down in 9th position in the race. That admittedly is for 5th position. I know that Jamie King is riding injured this weekend, and the priority is just to kind of keep up some scoring with the intention of coming back to full fitness later on in the season and still being in contention for the title. Up front it's Blackburn, Vella and Klaus. Another new fastest lap of the race from Sam Klaus. Will Howarth is going with him, a new personal best on that previous lap number 14, and that top quartet actually all still together, and they approach a group of 4 riders all further down the field, all going for positions themselves, and they've got to try and thread their way through. And this is what we were talking about. If you come up to a pack all at the same time, that makes it really complicated to try and lap all that traffic.
Yeah, definitely, because I mean, you see just then Sam just went up the inside of back marker, and then Will went round the outside, and then Sam got boxed in, and then Will was able to make it. So it's just kind of luck, because you never know which way they're going to go.
As you've called it there, Will Howarth gets the better of Sam Klaus on lap number 16 through the traffic to come through for third in the race, and that's a bit of a pain for Sam Klaus actually, because he was the rider who was on the move. He'd gained in about a second on the top two of Blackburn and Vella, and now he's lost it all in one go, getting stuck in the traffic and just at the wrong moments, as you said, through the S's, so that you end up behind a slower rider. In some cases the riders are lapping well back, and if you get stuck behind them on the inside line coming through a left-right, it makes it pretty complicated. We'll see if Klaus can make any of that lost ground back up, but certainly 0.2 of a second slower than Will Howarth on that last lap, and half a second behind him is actually Howarth that's starting to close in, although both James Blackburn and Alex Vella in the top two positions set new personal bests on that lap number 17, and we are now into the final lap, coming through the infield section and back onto the Simpson Straight, with Will Howarth the most likely rider to make a position change at the moment, or a position gain is going to be James Blackburn, who will take a third successive race victory this weekend. A perfect weekend for James Blackburn, who wins once again in the Pit Bike 140 category. Second over the line, Alex Vella just half a second in arrears, recovering after a disappointing ride and a fall last time out to second position in race number 3, and another useful haul of championship points for him. Third over the line in the Pit Bike 140 category, Sam Klaus. The winner in Moto Team, Will Howarth, who finished third in the scratch race, and the rest of the Moto Team podium finishers still making their way through. It's Steve Ball ahead of Fraser Kinnaird coming around the final turn at Paddock Bend and over the line, so it will be Ben Pascoe fifth in the scratch race, fourth in the Pit Bike 140s. Steve Ball over the line second in Moto Team does indeed get the better of Fraser Kinnaird with a new personal best on the final lap. There was about 0.2 of a second between them coming into that lap number 18, but Fraser Kinnaird dropping back on the final lap. So your two podiums from the Pit Bike 140 and the Moto Team split grid: James Blackburn, Alex Vella and Sam Klaus in the Pit Bike 140s, Will Howarth, Steve Ball and Fraser Kinnaird in the Moto Team. So how have you enjoyed your taste of commentary up here in our commentary position this afternoon?
Yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. I'll definitely come again at Row, because this is my first time really doing anything like this, so I've quite enjoyed it, and it's good to see what's behind the scenes.
And it's been good to have you up here with us as well, and good to see you on track. You've been involved in some good battling for the podium positions in your own category. What's your sort of expectation for the remaining rounds of this championship?
I think I'm going to win it, really. That's what I want to do, but I'm here for a laugh and just a bit of fun, and keeps you training and on the bikes for when I'm my proper days at work, if you say. So I'm really enjoying it at the minute, and just want to go for the win.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and wishing you the best of luck for all of the plans that you've spoken about for this coming season, and obviously for your own class here at Cool Fab. Thanks again, Max Cook.
Yeah, thank you.
A notice to the riders in the forthcoming categories that's come from Race Direction. At the moment we are running around about half an hour ahead of schedule, so just for your information, and obviously to make sure that you are ready for your relevant race. At the moment we're running about half an hour ahead of schedule, which is always good news, but does keep us on our toes up here in our commentary position.
Original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing. The Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
Now on to the Mini GP 70s. Well, the top 5 positions have been identical between race 1 and race 2. On each occasion, Harvey Claridge ahead of Brodie Crockford and Jay Abel on the podium. Jeremy Knight and Louis Rendell just behind. Callum Beach hasn't got away well from the front row in either of his 2 races this weekend. He's got a third and final chance to do so, to capitalise on what was an excellent qualifying session on the 127 bike. Second, third and fourth were particularly close in qualifying, and to be honest, 5th, 6th and 7th all went with them in that qualifying session. They were all separated by half a second from 2nd down to 7th, and you'd expect therefore that we'll have another competitive race here. Race number 3 in the Mini GP 70s gets underway with a good start from P4 for Brodie Crockford, who is immediately up into 2nd. Callum Beach getting away better this time around than he did in race number 2. He's up in 3rd position. Jay Abel quickly working his way through the field, and an inside move there into the top turn sees him gain another place. So Abel away well in each of his appearances on the circuit this weekend. He's already up to 4th just by the first turn coming through from P6 on the grid. He's finished 3rd in each of the 2 races so far this weekend. At the end of the opening lap then, it's Brodie Crockford ahead of Jay Abel in 2nd and 3rd positions. Your race leader is Harvey Claridge, and actually Claridge has dropped off the timing, so I can't confirm what the gap was at the end of the opening lap, but looking at it, it looks like about a second between the top 2 already. Brodie Crockford in P2 ahead of Jay Abel, who quickly got the better of Callum Beach for 3rd, having come through from 6th to 3rd on the grid. And Abel set for a 3rd successive 3rd place finish. So the top 3 are identical to what they were in the 2 previous races. Crockford, Abel behind Claridge, the race leader. But 4th position is with Callum Beach, and if he can stay there, this will be his best result of the weekend, following 2 10-point scores. In terms of the championship overall, it's Harvey Claridge who leads the way on 102 points. His closest rival taking part today, Brodie Crockford, who sits on 74, but Crockford doesn't have the pace to live with him in this one, race number 3. Claridge leading it then from Crockford in 2nd, 1.5 seconds behind. Jay Abel about 2 seconds further back than that. Another new fastest lap of the race last time around from Harvey Claridge, a 32.2 compared to a 32.8 from Brodie Crockford, who drops 6/10 of a second per lap to sit almost 2 seconds in arrears now. Still fairly close for 3rd position. Jay Abel hasn't been able to shake off Callum Beach, who's having undoubtedly his best ride of the weekend. 5th position with Jeremy Knight ahead of Oscar Pinson and Louis Rendell, and Rendell has performed better than this in the 2 races so far. He's still got plenty of time to make back lost ground. 14 laps still remaining, of course, in the early stages of race number 3 in the Mini GP 70s. Close for 5th position with Jeremy Knight under some pressure now from Oscar Pinson and Louis Rendell. There's a pack of 3 just behind P5 as we see Harvey Claridge coming in towards the end of lap number 5. Brodie Crockford and Jay Abel both set new personal bests on lap 4 to try and reel in some lost ground. But Abel still not really capable of shaking a Callum Beach, who sits in 4th position. And then close battle, as I said, for P5. Jeremy Knight only narrowly ahead of the orange liveried Oscar Pinson and Louis Rendell, waiting for an error from the 2 riders ahead. There's about a second separating those 3 riders, and a second between them and Callum Beach further up the road in 4th position. The top 4 then spreading out, but 5th, 6th and 7th is where the race is, with Oscar Pinson gaining ground on Jeremy Knight in P5. And 7th position with Louis Rendell. They come flashing past our commentary position and down towards turn 1 once again. Pinson getting a good run, setting a new personal best on that previous lap, gaining another 10th of a second on Jeremy Knight, and Louis Rendell doing the same, gaining on both of them. So that's why that group is closing up. Rendell is the fastest of the trio from 7th. Pinson slightly faster than Knight ahead. 5th, 6th and 7th all still packed together. Harvey Claridge leads at the end of lap number 7 from Brodie Crockford by 3 seconds. Then a sizable gap to Jay Abel, and then it's a stream of riders all coming through. Callum Beach, Jeremy Knight and Oscar Pinson upping their pace as this race goes on. They've all gained on Jay Abel on that last lap, lap number 7. Half a second now between Abel and in third and Callum Beach behind. There's a separate battle at the back of the field between Luke Coggins and Owen Mellor over 8th position, and they're involved in their own frantic struggle. Maybe caught by the leaders by the end of this race, and with those two fighting over their own race and their own championship points, that's going to make things a little bit more complicated for this pack that's working their way through. Jay Abel in third position, tracked by Callum Beach. A new personal best for Callum on that last lap, lap number 8, a 33 flat compared to a 33.1 for Jay Abel. Jeremy Knight also a tenth of a second faster than Abel from P5. Oscar Pinson and Louis Rendell setting their own personal best laps on lap 8, and the group is still pretty closely packed, although it looks like we've got a mechanical there coming around towards the Simpson Straight. It's too far away from our commentary position to be able to see which rider exactly that is. It's Jay Abel crossing the line with Callum Beach tucked up right behind. Then there's a big gap. I think that might be Jeremy Knight, who has suffered that mechanical up towards the top end of the circuit, but it's hard to tell from all the way over here. Two races have splintered away now. Jay Abel versus Callum Beach over third, and Oscar Pinson versus Louis Rendell over 5th position, with Rendell right up behind Pinson, but a 1.5 second gap now between their fight and the fight up ahead over the final step on the podium. Jeremy Knight now crosses the line, but he has gone to the back, so it must have been him with that issue coming around the hairpin, coming through the S's, that long left-hander that ends in a tightening left-hander, and then that left-right section that brings us back onto the fast section of the circuit, down the Simpson Straight and back onto the start-finish line. It's Harvey Claridge who leads the way still up front ahead of Brodie Crockford in second. He crosses the line now to complete lap number 11, does the race leader. Brodie Crockford still in second, still almost 5 seconds in arrears. Jay Abel with a 0.2 of a second advantage over Callum Beach, but again the gap between them cut on that last lap around. Owen Mellor and Luke Coggins both picking up their pace, which means that Jeremy Knight is really going to have it all on if he wants to get any extra points compared to the 9th position where he currently sits. Harvey Claridge coming up to lap them now. He moves on to lap 13, 6 laps still remaining. Less than 5 seconds between the top two. Then that separate race that I was talking about between Jay Abel and Callum Beach, who are closing in slightly on Jeremy Knight. Watching Oscar Pinson negotiating the S's, coming into the S's now through the left-hander, that sweeping left-hander that tightens that I was talking about just a moment ago. Jay Abel holding third position at the moment with Callum Beach right on his tail. Oscar Pinson then still under pressure from Louis Rendell. 2 races in 1. They've been developing as this race has gone on, but no position changes in them at the moment. Jay Abel in third position, just as he was in races 1 and 2. Callum Beach with his best ride of the day so far. I'm sure he'd like to cap it off with a podium. He gets a good run down Oak Tree and up towards the left-hander at the top of the hill, but he can't do anything once again about Jay Abel. But this is probably the closest he's been for some time. Up ahead of them it's Jeremy Knight, but he of course is a lap down in 9th position. It's Claridge leading the way. He crosses the start-finish line with an advantage of over 5 seconds ahead of Brodie Crockford. Third position still is with Jay Abel, only narrowly now ahead of Callum Beach, 0.2 of a second between them, and the same margin between Pinson and Rendell in the battle for 5th position. Owen Mellor and Luke Coggins have settled their battle over what is now 7th place ahead of Jeremy Knight, of course. Mellor in 7th with almost a 2-second advantage over Luke Coggins in 8th position, and Jeremy Knight rounding out the runners in 9th position. Three laps still remaining then in race number 3 in the Mini GP 70 category. Jay Abel ahead of Callum Beach, Oscar Pinson ahead of Louis Rendell. There is absolutely no change in those battles. Callum Beach dropping back ever so slightly, but already on this lap number 16 he's made back that lost ground. So this race is going to go to the finish, and it's going to take an error by the looks of it from either Abel or Pinson to shake up those positions, as Harvey Claridge comes in to start lap number 17, and Brodie Crockford comes through to lap Luke Coggins, who sits in 8th position. Jeremy Knight now over the line is only 5 seconds in arrears of Luke Coggins, but I'm not sure whether he's going to have time to make up the remainder. He's running about 1.5 seconds a lap faster than Luke Coggins, but there's only 2 laps for him in which to make that remaining ground, and I think that margin might just prove a little bit too big for Jeremy Knight to try and recover a position after his earlier race dramas. Harvey Claridge comes in to lap Owen Mellor, who sits in 7th position, and he's now into his final lap, so time very much running out for Jeremy Knight to make up ground on Luke Coggins. But more crucially perhaps in terms of the podium positions, Jay Abel has managed to shake off Callum Beach. Louis Rendell then and Oscar Pinson is the closest race on track. Jeremy Knight did set a new personal best on that last lap to gain in 2 seconds on Luke Coggins. He's certainly going to get close at the finish, but I don't think he's going to get close enough. Louis Rendell trying around the outside of Oscar Pinson, coming through the infield section and onto the Simpson Straights. This is the race I've been talking about throughout for 5th position. The only battle still yet to be decided. The rest of the positions look settled, but not close enough. Rendell through the closing stages, and it's Oscar Pinson who holds on for P5. Jeremy Knight falling a second short of Luke Coggins at the checkered flag. So as I said, he was gaining in at a rate of 2 seconds per lap in the latter stages, but Luke Coggins was able to maintain his own pace, enjoy his own race and finish in 8th position. So it's Harvey Claridge who takes the checkered flag ahead of Brodie Crockford and Jay Abel. No change in the podium positions in any of the 3 races this weekend in the Mini GP 70. Callum Beach coming up with his best ride of the weekend for 4th. Oscar Pinson rounding out the top 5 after holding off the attentions of Louis Rendell in an entertaining scrap, and a separate battle in the latter order of the field, with Jeremy Knight trying to recover after 2 4th position finishes this weekend. He finishes at the back of the field following a mid-race error, but that gave him some fight in the latter stages against Luke Coggins, who had earlier been shaken off by Owen Mellor in the battle for 7th position. So overtaking and fights right through the field in race number 3 in the Mini GP 70s.
The original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing.
1, 2, 3, 4. First, let's break down the drum figure into 4 beats. The basic bongo rhythm beat.
Original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge.
On now to the Mini GP 50s and a return to the track for Casey O'Gorman, who of course is competing in 3 classes in 2017. Casey starts on pole, so far undefeated in the Mini GP 50s. He lines up alongside Corey Stainer, who's been his closest rival so far this season. Getting underway then and down to the first turn, the top 3 breaking in the order they sat on the grid, which is also the order of the current top 3 in the championship standings. Casey O'Gorman leading the way on 125 points ahead of Corey Stainer on 93 and Evan Belford on 81. Finn Smart and Sandy Horn are their closest rivals in the points overall, with 60 and 56 points respectively, and in 4th and 5th positions. Casey O'Gorman then will lead at the end of lap number 1 ahead of Corey Stainer. The closest race on track is at the moment for 4th, 5th and 6th positions, with Bailey Stewart Campbell, I think that is, holding 5th ahead of Finn Smart, who's dropped down to 6th position, and it's Sandy Horn who's made the biggest wins from the start line, moving up from P6 to 4th position at the end of lap number 1. Side by side for 2nd position there, with Corey Stainer struggling to hold off the attentions of Evan Belford. Belford looking for a way through again as they come down the Simpson Straight and towards Paddock Bend. Stainer moving to block, holding the inside line. Belford trying to get the run up the inside, coming off Paddock Bend, but can't do so and actually seems to drop back down the start-finish straight. Meanwhile, further back, Bailey Stewart Campbell going for a lunge down the inside of Sandy Horn, but Horn covers the position. And Bailey Stewart Campbell managed to back out of that move just in time, but it was very close between the two of them into turn number 1, and Horn running slightly wider and then holding the position, but there was less than a tenth of a second between the two of them at the end of lap number 2, and that race continues at the moment with Bailey Stewart Campbell looking racy here on the tail of Sandy Horn for P4, and he manages to find a way through for 4th position, but at one stage it looked like they were both going to end up off the track. Stewart Campbell comes through then for 4th place, with Sandy Horn relegated to 5th position. Casey O'Gorman still your race leader by 5 seconds ahead of Corey Stainer. 3rd position is with Evan Belford. The races are still for 2nd and 4th position. Bailey Stewart Campbell getting the better of Sandy Horn on that last lap, and behind them Finn Smart is dropping back. So we've got 2 races in 1 here for 2nd and for 4th. That 4th position race still the closest on track. They're starting to drop Finn Smart behind them. Looking further back through the field, it's close as well for 8th and 9th positions, with Caris Jones trying to gain an extra position, and in fact has done so at the end of lap number 4. So Caris Jones now up to 8th. Casey O'Gorman in front, Corey Stainer in 2nd. 3rd is with Evan Belford. Watching 2nd and 3rd positions come over the line, more or less together. Corey Stainer and Evan Belford setting a very similar pace on that previous lap. Bailey Stewart Campbell faster than the pair of them, and that's enabled him to really leave Sandy Horn now. And the top 5 positions starting to settle down. Still that race on going further back with Caris Jones, although saying that it's Caris Jones who has dropped that battle now. It's Mason Johnson who is leading Dylan Mellor. That's the race for 10th position that I was watching. I would suspect that that's Sean Abel making his way into the pits there. It looked to me as though he was trailing some bodywork on the previous lap, which was scraping along the floor, and I suspect that has forced him into an early retirement, or certainly to an early pit stop. There are 12 laps to go still, of course, in this race number 3 in the Mini GP 50. Dylan Mellor passing Mason Johnson on that last lap. So I did say that Mellor was close to Johnson running previously. The main races at the moment are actually on the fringes of the top 10, because the top position certainly looks settled aside from that battle between Corey Stainer and Evan Belford, but that has had no movement in that race for P2, because Belford can't seem to find a way through, and Stainer is holding all of the right positions on track. That's the advantage of holding track position. He's locking it down to the inside, forcing Belford to try something different, and Belford can't find find a way through. It's Casey O'Gorman with a 10-second lead now over Corey Stainer in second position. Evan Belford in third. O'Gorman just coming over the line to complete lap number 8, and second and third positions are only now coming through the final turn. Bailey Stewart Campbell has gained a lot of ground on those two though, and could very soon join the battle for second position. 0.4 of a second faster than Corey Stainer and Evan Belford on that last lap, so my eyes weren't deceiving me. Bailey Stewart Campbell is starting to gain in ground on the two-way fight for second, which is not too far away from becoming a three-way fight for second. Looks as though Sean Abel has rejoined the circuit after coming in to have that reparation completed to the bike. I'm just watching the race up front, and second, third and fourth positions, Corey Stainer and Evan Belford have responded, leaving Bailey Stewart Campbell in fourth position, dropping back. So Bailey Stewart Campbell a second in arrears of Evan Belford, who sits in third, and Corey Stainer up in P2. That's where the race is, because Casey O'Gorman is long gone, over 10 seconds clear. Just crossing the line, Dylan Mellor challenging around the outside for ninth position, and looks as though Dylan may soon take that position. He seems to have the pace advantage. Points are scored all the way down to 15th position, of course, so Sean Abel continuing to run in fifth position, just getting out of the way of the races that are going on, because obviously having had to come into the pits, he's 2 laps down. Casey O'Gorman is who leads the way. 11 laps completed, 7 laps to go. Corey Stainer and Evan Belford in second and third positions. Dylan Mellor still fractionally behind that ninth place, as Corey Stainer and Evan Belford come through to lap, I think that's Ben Smith they're coming through to lap there, who sits in 12th position. And Belford not really able to take much advantage of that to gain in ground, and neither was Bailey Stewart Campbell, who ended up catching the back marker coming up the hill past the oak tree, and that has cost him further time in his attempt to gain in ground on second position. Casey O'Gorman, Corey Stainer, Evan Belford in that order. Bailey Stewart Campbell in fourth position. Sandy Horn and isolated fifth. Finn Smart in sixth position, under some pressure now from Thomas Gomes on the number 98 bike. That's a race worth watching as that unfolds. Just watching them now coming towards our commentary position on the start-finish straight. Finn Smart in 6th and Thomas Gomes in 7th. Here they come again, second and third positions coming out of Paddock Bend. This is the closest that Evan Belford has been to Corey Stainer for a while. Belford fractionally faster than Stainer, despite Stainer setting a new personal best on that lap number 13. So Evan Belford certainly has the pace. Dylan Mellor's got that overtaking manoeuvre done for 9th position. Belford seems to be alongside here, and it looks to me as though Evan Belford may have taken second place away from Corey Stainer with an inside move coming in towards the Simpson Straight. We'll have to see as they come back past us, but certainly it looked as though Evan Belford was on the march. He had gained ground on Corey Stainer on that previous lap, and Belford has got the better of Corey Stainer. So it's O'Gorman in front, Evan Belford now up to P2, Corey Stainer in third position. And that will be an opportunity for Evan Belford to gain in some ground on Corey Stainer in the championship overall. There were 12 points separating the two of them coming into this third race of the weekend. Belford having been beaten by Stainer twice so far. 2 second position finishes for Corey Stainer, but at the moment he's only in line for third because Evan Belford has come through on lap number 14 and has started to stretch a bit of an advantage now over third position. Bailey Stewart Campbell, after that initial resurgence to gain ground on the two of them, has not been able to match their pace as they've really stepped on it and pulled away, fighting one another. Evan Belford leaving Corey Stainer now. A bit of a gap starting to emerge between them. A good ride from Evan Belford, who was 0.6 of a second on that previous lap, faster than Corey Stainer, and it shows in the deficit between them. Corey Stainer 0.8 of a second down on second place on that previous lap. 2 laps still remaining, of course, and Evan's caught a back marker just at the wrong moment there coming around Paddock Bend, and that's going to give the advantage to Stainer if he can press it home back into turn number 1. Half a second between them now. It did sit at 0.8 of a second, that gap between second and third places. Thomas Gomes in 7th position, still behind Finn Smart. 0.8 of a second faster than Finn though on lap number 15. So that battle is far from finished as yet as the race leader comes into the final lap. Casey O'Gorman in front. Still second place for Evan Belford. Corey Stainer in third. Stainer was faster than Belford on lap number 16, but he's dropped back again on lap 17, and now the gap is over a second for the first time all race between those two. O'Gorman in front, Belford in second, Stainer in third. Those look like being your podium finishers. And barring any error from Evan Belford, he seems to have second place sewn ahead of Corey Stainer. Then big gaps between the next couple of riders as Casey O'Gorman takes the checkered flag to extend his championship lead and make it 3 wins out of 3. Finn Smart does hold on ahead of Thomas Gomes in 6th position, a lap down of course on the race leader. And now second place over the line, one-handed as well for Evan Belford after that brilliant overtaking manoeuvre on Corey Stainer at the top end of the circuit coming through the S's. He managed to carve his way past as they negotiated lap traffic and then pulled away ahead of Corey Stainer in the latter stages for second place. Casey O'Gorman then wins it, Evan Belford in second, third home is Corey Stainer. Bailey Stewart-Campbell had a mid-race resurgence but then gradually dropped back from the podium trio. He still finishes 4th, and another creditable ride from him. And 5th position, completing that top 5, Sandy Horn. Then further back there was a separate race between Finn Smart and Thomas Gomes, which was won in the end for 6th position by Finn Smart.
The Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
The penultimate race of the day is race 3 in the pit bike open category. Pole sitter Elliot Pinson leads the championship on 90 points, but his gap severely reduced after a mere 4th position finish in race 2, which was won by Max Cook, with the championship deficit now down to 3 points between Pinson and Cook, who sit one behind the other on the grids. Elliot Pinson on P1, James Rose alongside him on P2 on the grid. A good weekend it's been for him so far, moving up to 4th position in the series. That's a great start from Max Cook from P3. Cook down the inside and up into 2nd place into the first turn. And it looked like a poor getaway to my eyes by Elliot Pinson, the pole sitter and current championship leader. We've got the top 2 in the championship dicing for position live on track here at Red Lodge. Coming on now to the Simpson Straights with the race leader James Rose from 2nd on the grid. Getting underway with the race now, race number 3 in the pit bike open category. And it's James Rose who has made the whole shot, just as he did in the warm-up lap, of course. I was just testing everyone, just making sure everyone knew what we were doing. James Rose is away well. But he's gone down, and James Rose has gone down coming on to Simpson Straight, and the race leader probably wishes that the warm-up lap was the first lap, because he was leading at the end of it. At the end of lap 1 in the race, it's Elliot Pinson who's hit the front. Max Cook running in second. Richard Holmes-Williams is in third. I should have added that James Rose, of course, was straight back up to his feet, but he's now at the back of the field. Thankfully for him, he's got 17 laps to make up some lost ground, and he's only worse for wear in the sense that he seems to be covered in some dust. Off-track limits here. There's no real runoff area other than grass and a little bit of dust. James Rose at the back of the field with a lot of work to do now. 15th position is only worth 1 championship point. He sits up in 4th in the series, of course. So the race leading battle is between Max Cook and Elliot Pinson. Well, Cook got just as good a start in the real start as he did in the warm-up. And he is blasting away out in front. Max Cook with the new fastest lap of the race on lap 2. I'm sure he must have been assisted by his time in the commentary box. That always helps riders. Another new fastest lap of the race for Max Cook, who now leads by half a second over Elliot Pinson. Richard Holmes-Williams sits in 3rd place. The only position change on that lap, John Ansell coming through for 5th place at the expense of Will Howarth. I know that John Ansell's got a bit of a fan club listening in live on Facebook from messages that we had earlier on, so I'm sure they'll be pleased about that. Will Howarth relegated down to 6th position, and James Ansell sits in 7th position. At the end of lap number 4, it's Max Cook who leads by half a second over Elliot Pinson, and Richard Holmes-Williams sits in 3rd. The gap just over a second now between the top 3 that are starting to spread out. Cook the fastest of the 3 of them. There's only small margins in pace between them. Incidentally, further back down the order, James Rose starting to gain in some ground. He's lapping in the 32s. The riders directly up ahead of him are lapping in the 35s. So it won't be long before James Rose makes an overtake and moves out of that single points paying position. And actually I'm watching him coming through and challenging for 14th position. He's going for the inside now, coming down the Simpson Straight, and James Rose is up to P14, having fallen from the lead and gone to the back of the field. Max Cook out in front, Elliot Pinson in 2nd, Richard Holmes-Williams in 3rd. Looking forward to watching James Rose trying to gradually make up ground from the back of the field. He's now up to P14. Elliot Pinson with a new personal best on that previous lap, the championship leader. The top 2 in the series standings are 1st and 2nd in the race as well, but in the opposite order to what they are in the series standings at the moment. A race victory here for Max Cook would give him the championship lead ahead of Elliot Pinson, who sits 2nd directly behind him and less than a second behind him after gaining in some ground on that lap number 6, and the gap visibly tightening up between them again on lap number 7. Richard Holmes-Williams, the runner-up in race number 2, is not able to stick with the pace of the front-running duo here. Pinson again gaining ground on Max Cook on lap number 7. Less than half a second now, that gap. Well, after I talked up John Ansell a couple of laps ago, he's now dropped to 7th position behind James Ansell. And Will Howarth also coming through for P5. I'm watching now James Rose as he challenges down the inside and trying to move through for 12th position, which he takes. So 2 overtakes on that last lap from James Rose, passing John Ingram and then Felix Hearn down the inside into turn number 1 for 12th position. Watching Will Howarth leading that group from 5th down to 7th. Howarth, Ansell and Ansell. And then a separate race for 8th position between Gareth Roberts and Jack Walters. Callum Wybrow rounding out the top 10 ahead of Tom Alexander with a new personal best for him. And I can't believe the dexterity with which James Rose has gapped the riders behind him from 12th position, and he is lapping faster than all of the riders right the way up to 4th position as Richard Holmes-Williams comes up the field. Where is Elliot Pinson on the circuit? While I was making a focus on James Rose, Elliot Pinson seems to have dropped right back to 7th position, certainly on the timing. I haven't been able to spot him yet coming past our commentary position. Max Cook is coming through to make some lapping moves. But certainly we've got a yellow flag here at the final turn. And I think that might have been our... Just trying to negotiate exactly who that is as they come down towards Paddock Bend. And James Rose has gained a lot of ground here on the tail of Tom Alexander now. He's got the better of Will Howarth. That was Will Howarth, I think, dropping back. The 158 bike of Anthony Perrell was the faller there going into Paddock Bend. He's up and running again, continuing on in the race. I'm just watching for Will Howarth because he lost a lot of positions on that previous lap. He's coming up the hill now and around the top bend. Max Cook in front, Richard Holmes-Williams in second. Ryan O'Grady clocking up in third, James Ansell and John Ansell in fourth and fifth positions. Elliot Pinson, having been dropped down to sixth place, is starting to make back some ground now. I can only assume that must have been a fall, because it certainly happened out of my eye shot for Elliot Pinson, who crosses the line now, 3 seconds in arrears of John Ansell, who sits in fifth place. That's really bad news in the context of the championship for Elliot Pinson, because his main rival Max Cook is out in front, and it was while Elliot Pinson tried to close in on the tail of him, the gap was less than half a second between them, that Pinson suddenly dropped back through the field. 8 seconds the gap now for Max Cook, who just needs to bring this one home calmly. Well on his way towards a second consecutive victory after a win in race number 2. He will take the championship lead. Richard Holmes-Williams in line for a second runner-up position of the weekend as James Rose comes through to take 8th position, ahead of Gareth Roberts and Callum Wybrow, who round out the top 10. So it's been a good recovery from James Rose. Of course, he's been aided by the errors of others, but he's up to being 9 seconds now from the back of Elliot Pinson, when Rose, of course, fell from the lead and went right to the back of the field on lap number 1. That's never the right way to start your race, going to last position. James Rose, the last of the runners on the lead lap now. Max Cook is right up behind him, and that's actually why it looks to the eye as though James Rose is under a lot of pressure. He isn't really. That's Max Cook, and Rose has actually run wide on the top turn, and I think that may have cost him a position, because Max Cook came through, James Rose got moved out of the way, and it certainly interrupted his lap and cost him a lot of time. So the front runners coming through, Max Cook completing his 16th lap, 2 laps still to go. James Rose comes over the line now. He still sits in 8th position, but as I said, he dropped a couple of seconds back from Jack Walters there, and that's a bit of a frustration for him. He was going after P7 in the race. Time will start to tick down for him to try and close back in that lost ground, although he is very fast out there, James Rose, certainly. His previous lap was a 35.6, a second and a half slower than Jack Walters. He was right on the tail of Walters up until Max Cook came through to lap them. Cook now entering his final lap, ahead of, well, Jack Walters on the track, who's just been lapped, but it's Richard Holmes-Williams who sits in second in the race. 10 seconds in arrears. It's going to be Ryan O'Grady home for third from P5 on the grid, aided by falls for the top two riders on the grid. James Rose still working his way through and actually challenging for another position gain as Elliot Pinson gets the better of John Ansell, and he now has an opportunity to pass James Ansell and recover another position in the latter stages as he goes after 4th place. It's going to be celebration for Max Cook, who wins. James Rose unable to make in enough ground to get the better of Jack Walters, and he finishes in 7th. Second place over the line for Richard Holmes-Williams. I'm waiting to see how this pack unfolds around the final turn. 3rd position will go the way of Ryan O'Grady. It does indeed. James Ansell over the line fractionally ahead of Elliot Pinson, who misses out on 4th position by the skin of his teeth. That's a disappointing finish for Elliot Pinson, because he had the pace to have run with the top runner Max Cook, as, to be fair, did James Rose. Rose lost it with a lap 1.4 from the lead that ended up dropping him to 15th place, and he did well to recover to P8, just getting a bit disturbed as the front runners came through to lap him, and that probably cost him 1 or 2 positions in the closing stages. Elliot Pinson, meanwhile, his own off didn't drop him quite so many positions as that of James Rose, and he was able to recover to P5.
The original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing. This is the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the official partner series to the BSB.
Coming into the final race of the day, just dipping back into Facebook. I did say that there was a bit of a fan club for the Ansels. Laura Ansel has said, come on the Ansels. They had a good race last time out, battling for 4th and 5th positions there. A shout out as well to Jada, number 106. That comes from Mum. So obviously plenty of parental support this weekend. And Brodie Crockford also receiving congratulations on our Facebook page. We're coming towards the end of the action for today, but do remember that if you haven't liked us already on Facebook, do give us a like, and that will enable us to keep in touch with you about all the goings on in the championship. And obviously we've got our live streams going out over Facebook, as well as live commentary through this weekend. Next up are the Mini F1 sidecars. Well, there's no doubt about the championship leader in this category. The number 26 outfit, ridden by Mick Williams, is a comfortable leader, undefeated so far. And in each race that he's ridden, he's probably been a second a lap faster than everyone else. Just to keep us on our toes, it doesn't look like we're having a warm-up lap this time. When I call a warm-up lap, it ends up being the race, and when I call a race, it ends up being a warm-up lap. But no warm-up lap there from the Mini F1 sidecars. Thankfully, I managed to work that one out because I didn't quite get to grips with the last one, did I? No apologies to be made for that. These things happen. That's live commentary, and those of you listening on Facebook Live, obviously, I'm sure you'll be sympathetic. But anyway, we're underway with the race in the Mini F1 sidecars, with Mick Williams leading the way, unbeaten so far in this championship and through this weekend as well. Good ride last time out from the number 17 outfit, ridden by Danny Stainer. He sits in 3rd in this one. Number 25 outfit, ridden by Paul Qualters, is the one which sits in 2nd, both in the championship and in this race specifically. There's only 5 points separating the two of them, and they've exchanged places in the 2 races so far, so there were only 5 points separating them coming into this weekend as well. That's where the fight is in this Mini F1 sidecar category, between the number 25 outfit ridden by Paul Coulter Senior and the number 17 outfit ridden by Danny Stainer, who sit in 2nd and 3rd positions and are separated by 0.3 of a second at the end of lap number 2, with the number 17 outfit ridden by Danny Stainer gaining in 0.4 of a second on that last lap to sit just 0.3 of a second in arrears. Separate battles further down the order for 6th and 7th positions, with The number 230 outfit ridden by Mark Parker passing the number 127 outfit ridden by John Hosker. That almost came across as a tongue twister there, trying to get all of that out. Still the fight is for second position. Mick Williams is away and gone. As you might have expected, 3 seconds clear of the nearest outfit, the number 25 ridden by Paul Qualters Senior, who still has that 0.3 of a second advantage over the 17 outfit ridden by Danny Stainer, but they're alongside one another, and well, Danny Stainer had to back out of it there because unsurprisingly, if it's difficult enough to get alongside someone coming up the hill normally, then in a sidecar you're in even more difficulty trying to get side by side when someone wants to block you out. So Danny Stainer will have to think about how to make this move in a different way, but he certainly seems the faster of the two outfits in the battle for second and third positions, as he was in race 2. The number 17 outfit coming on strong on the tail of the number 25 outfit in the battle for second position. Let's see if he gets the run again. He has got the faster exit off Senna, and he has got the acceleration up the hill, but this time he's going for something different. He's going wider all the way around the outside of the top bend, but you can't go that far around, although it would have the advantage of the inside then coming through the right-hander. He can't get all the way around, and so has to settle at the moment for third position. Number 26 outfit ridden by Mick Williams coming through to lap the first of the back markers. Mick Lee in the number 144 outfit. He sits in 9th position, having started on the back of the grids. Race for second and position is also now passing Mick Lee, and the number 17 outfit ridden by Danny Stainer held back there in third position by the back marker. So again, a bit of good fortune for Paul Qualters, who now holds that position, but we're at the half race distance already, and Paul Qualters has been worrying about traffic behind him rather than really being able to do much about pulling clear. Danny Stainer in that number 17 outfit right on the tail of the number 25 in P2. Mick Williams away and gone, can relax off the pace now. 5 seconds ahead in the lead position. The number 25 ridden by Paul Qualters in P2. The number 17 ridden by Danny Stainer in third. Stainer alongside once again for second position as they come down the hill towards Paddock Bend. This is the closest he's been. He's going to move across from the outside to the inside, but thinks about it and backs off. But again, he's in the slipstream here, if you like, coming down the inside into turn number 1. Again has to back out of it. He's weaving all around here trying to capture the race lead, the second position, but he can't do so. See, it almost feels like the race lead, the way Mick Williams has disappeared off into the distance. The number 25 outfit ridden by Paul Qualters holding that second place at the moment, but Danny Stainer's number 17 outfit is right on his tail still in the race for second place. As they come down to Paddock Bend once again, what can Stainer do about Qualters? He's right on his tail. Again, he's tucking to the inside. Again, he's looking to the inside, and again, he has to back out of it. The straight isn't long enough at the moment for the number 17 outfit. Further back through the field, the number 127 outfit ridden by John Hosker has captured 6th place at the expense of Paul Qualters Jr., who not sure what's happened to him on that lap, but he's dropped back behind Simon Ibbetson's number 46 outfit as well. Still, our focus on the race for second position as it stands. Paul Qualters Senior versus Danny Stainer in the number 17 outfit. Not quite as close this time around, although he's still close enough to cause some mischief into turn number 1. He's lining himself up as they come through the back markers, and Paul Qualters certainly had to back it off. Danny Stainer's got the advantage. They're going to both come past the back marker Mick Lee as they come up towards the top turn, and Stainer again not quite close enough to challenge. They're into the final lap now, led away by the number 26 outfit, piloted by Mick Williams. The fight was over second position, but it looks as though we've got difficulties for the number 17. Is that at the top of the hill? It's just the one place that is blocked by a caravan there. on the exit of the S's, and I can't see which outfit that is, so it's going to have to wait until they come over the start-finish line. It looks to me, though, as though Danny Stayner's number 17 outfit may have suffered a mechanical because it's Paul Coulter's coming over the line now to take P2. Danny Stayner was running in third. It looks as though they've got it sort of back up and running, and that should be good enough to get them to the line, but they were a lap clear of some of the other runners, so they should be able to finish in fourth just by trundling over the line here, which could be important in the context of the championship. After they finished second last time out, they had the pace for second in this race as well. That machine is just trickling over the line, and that you're not going to see a much slower finish than that from the number 17 outfit ridden by Danny Stayner. Real misfortune on the final lap, and real drama as well, as they were going after P2, and they looked set to capture it, with Paul Coulter Senior desperately trying to hold them off, and in the end he does gain second place, and the number 200 outfit ridden by Ben Brunt captures a podium finish, only the fourth different outfit to make it onto the podium this weekend. So some last lap drama in race 3 in the Mini F1 sidecars brings us to the conclusion of the race weekend here in Red Lodge. So before we go off air, we have a few thank yous, please, that have come from the organisation. A thank you to Rob Val and Roger Keys for another brilliant race meeting, successfully run, and we're even ahead of schedule, and I'm sure everyone will be grateful for an opportunity to nip off home a fraction earlier, particularly those who've got to pack up, obviously. The fathers, marshals that have supported us here today, obviously the paramedics, thankfully they haven't had to do too many dramatic things this weekend. The chefs, and I'm very grateful to them on a personal note, obviously, for keeping me fed and watered. Of course, to Cool Motor Racing and Cool Milk, our title sponsors. And a final thought, don't forget to like on Facebook. Obviously, then you'll be the first ones to get all of our news. Add us to the forthcoming events. Sign up as going on those event details. And of course, listen in live again next time on Facebook. And of course, live on online radio with the Cool FAB-Racing website, and that's the place to look for all of the news ahead of round 3.
The original and best